We have now caught up. Meh. Hello, welcome to Lemon Studios, home of the Lemmy vs. Limey games. I'm your official Zeke Lamone, and today they face off in Paranormal Activity the Marked Ones, or as most people like to call it, Paranormal Activity 5, because even though this is supposed to be a spinoff, it ties into the story of Katie and Christy a lot more than what we as an audience intended. In this, we follow Jesse, who just graduated high school, and he buys a camera to record everything, and then after he receives a marking, some strange things happen in the night, and also to him. Now, when this movie first came out, a lot of people did not like it, and this was also the first Paranormal Activity movie to come out in January, which is known as the dumping ground for all bad movies, especially for horror. Like this year's, it was The Grudge. God, that movie was god-awful. And I don't remember 2019's, but I know it was a bad horror movie. Anyways, after this movie came out, it has gained a cult following. A lot of people now think this is the best movie out of all six. Is it because of the extended version that we are going to be looking at? This takes it from an 86-minute runtime to 101 minutes? Well, let's find out and see where it lands on the lemon scale. We kick off graduating the class of 2012 as valedictorian Oscar is giving a speech about how change isn't easy, but we must embrace our destiny. And I gotta say, this is a very, very impressive way of foreshadowing for a found footage movie. I mean, this is a very realistic speech to give at a graduation, Obama cadence and all.
Change isn't always easy, but change is what's going to allow us to grow as individuals and embrace our destiny.
We then meet our pair of protagonists, Jesse and Hector. Some photos are taken, and then Oscar introduces us to his mother and brother, Arturo. A party then occurs later, and with the money that Jesse gets, he buys a camera, and he introduces us to where he lives, and explains, basically, the whole setup. And I'm really torn here, because this part is not in the theatrical cut. Him buying the camera, and I also believe us meeting Arturo and his mother. I believe that was cut too. I believe we see them take some photos, and then there's the party, and then we cut immediately to Hector flipping the arrow, because that's where he works. We don't see Jesse buy the camera and going around and all that. We just kind of go like, well, we know this is a found footage movie, so we're just going to go along for the ride. And this is where I'm torn. Because on its surface, it's not needed. It's really not. It's really not, because we know where he lives. It's an apartment building. Although we do get some explanation. We know why Hector's there all the time, because Hector is a neighbor. He lives a few doors down. And we also meet Arturo. We know who Arturo looks like. So later, when we do get to Hector in the arrow, and there's like a little drug deal going on, we see, oh, that's Arturo. Instead, in the theatrical, like, oh, well, it's just, some thugs, if you will. And it's just randoms, and it means nothing. Although, with this, we do see it, and now it gives us more of a connection, and we also know why Hector is always there. So, even though it's really padded runtime, I still think it's necessary, so I'm going to give it the Limey for it not being in the theatrical cut, because it explains some more stuff earlier on than us having to figure out and play catch-up with later on. We have now gotten to the theatrical version, with Jesse showing Hector his camera, and Arturo's crew is like, hey, they're recording us. Go get the camera. And why are they recording? Who knows? But I'm not going to grant a Limey for it anymore. I've done it enough times. At this point, the franchise is just like, look, it's found footage, just go with it. And at this point, at some point, I got to be like, alright, fine, I'll just go with it at this point and have to forget about believability. So yeah, no more Limeys for that. And they run away from Arturo's crew. And basically, Hector and Jesse are playing jackass with the camera. They're doing all these crazy, silly things, like being in a laundry basket and going down the stairs with it, just doing some minor stuff. And at nighttime, they hear some crazy noises coming from Crazy Anna's apartment. And they go to investigate it with Jesse's GoPro and go down into her apartment with that camera. Just a note for everyone, don't do that. That's a very big invasion of privacy, and you could probably go to jail for this. Especially with what they catch. They catch a naked woman in Anna's apartment. And then Anna's also naked, and Anna's drawing a symbol on this woman. which leads to the rumors to be true that Crazy Anna is indeed a brouhaha. And look, I'm going to have to give a Lemmy for this. They are not using night cards. It's a spinoff, so I guess they're like, hey, we don't need to use the night cards. We can just make a movie. I wish they would keep this going into Ghost Dimensions. They don't. That Limey is coming soon. But we will give a Lemmy for no night cards for this movie. They mess with Anna a little bit more, and this causes Anna to tell Jesse, you do not know what's coming to you. And later, Anna dies. And we expect it to be Oscar because he comes out from her apartment and, like, burst out. And earlier in the movie, we saw Oscar, like, actually hanging out with Anna in her apartment. And he did not look like a happy camper. So, wow. It was a big swerve for me, as, you know, I expected, and I'm sure a lot of us expected, that Anna was going to be our final boss. Like, we were going to have to go through her apartment, like, you know, and fight her through whatever demon roulette that we go through in these Paranormal Activity movies. But man, was I wrong. Gotta give a Lemmy for it. Later, we see Jesse and Hector get high, and they get the great idea to sneak into Anna's apartment. And look, I know they're high, but this is the stupidest thing that any characters can do in any movie. And this is all because movie. This is so the plot can happen. Like, there's a murder investigation going on. And you live in this building. You are a suspect, whether you like it or not. I don't care if you see in the computer that the suspect at large is Oscar. You're also a suspect. Why are you sneaking into her apartment and then touch everything in there with no gloves? Ugh. Now, sneaking into the apartment is a little different from the theatrical and the extended version. There is, in the theatrical, Jesse scares Hector, and the extended, Hector scares Jesse, in 2 different locations. Although, I am going to give a Lemmy to the theatrical version here, because they grab a book for the next day, and it goes through, like, some different rituals of demons and all of that. And in the theatrical, you see him pick up the book and take it with him. In the extended, you don't. So, Lemmy did the theatrical. In this book, it shows how to summon demons and on how to time travel. Paranormal Activity is introducing time travel. Wow, this feels like an episode of Black Mirror, and guess what? That's exactly what they make to summon a demon. Why would you want to summon a demon? Anyway, they sneak into a church, and wait, pause. Is that sunlight? Did they film this during the day? Because they clearly sneak into the church at night. And yeah, that's sunlight, because that's an aerial window. What? So this has to be the reason why this whole entire church scene was cut. And the thing is, this is a really good scene. It's a really, really good scene. And it explains a lot, because in the theatrical, they just go immediately to him being bit. Like, they talk about, like, oh yeah, you can summon demons and all of that, and then the next scene is him being bit, and now he's marked. It frustrates me. It really frustrates me, because this is a great creepy scene, and it explains how he got bit. Like, him sneaking into the apartment, sure, I guess we'd be like, I mean, he did sneak into the crazy girl's house. I mean, of course he's going to get bit. But why not Hector also get bit? This explains why Jesse is the one that got bit. And it had to be cut because, like, oh my god, we recorded this during night, and you can clearly see the day. This is supposed to be nighttime. So they had to cut it out. And I'm going to give a Limey for it still, because, again, this was such a good scene, and it explains a lot, and it makes everything flow a lot more, and it doesn't feel as choppy in a theatrical version. But man, know your times when you record, man. We have now come to the theatrical version again, as Jesse is now bitten. He has the Katie bite mark, and he is playing Simon with his friend until the demon decides to communicate. And I gotta say, look, this is a very clever and original idea to use Simon as like a Ouija board. I would have never thought of it. Although the scene itself is not good in execution. It feels very scripted, and it just doesn't feel natural at all. Some more extended shots follow. Chavo's barking at the door. Hector craps his pants, and the grandma is blessing the house with vinegar to make it safe. And all of this really felt like filler. I do not blame the studio at all for cutting this out from the theatrical version. Gonna give a Lemmy to the theatrical for this. We have now cut to the theatrical again as Hector and Jesse play basketball, and afterwards Jesse's going to get a snack, but then he gets jumped until Simon says get off of Jesse. I decided to name the demon Simon because, well, you know, they talked to him with Simon. Simon says it was a clever joke. Anyway, and then Jesse wants to confirm that it was indeed him, and Simon confirms. Although Jesse then asks him, hey, are you my guardian angel? And Simon says, well, no, I'm not. And really, really good scene here, guys. I just really loved it. It really built the tension really well. Gotta give a Lemmy. The next day, Jesse now has powers as Simon catches him. He helps him blow an air mattress up in one breath. Flies for a second on a skateboard. And, you know, they're really excited, and I get that. Although, this thing, as you see it as now, is saying that it's not a guardian angel. Aren't you going to be a little hesitant with what powers it's giving you? The boys go to a party, and this is where we get our almost paranormal sex scene. Because Jesse is not silly, he leaves to go find something to wrap his willy. And Penelope is left alone, and then she starts to hear some noises. And this is where she finds the hidden basement, if you will, of this apartment, because there's a hatchet that moves up under the floor of the apartment building, and a hand comes up and grabs her. She runs away, and it turns out to be Oscar. And when Jesse goes to investigate, Oscar finds him and goes, hey, I also have the mark, and what it's doing to me is what it's doing to you, and the only way to stop it is to kill yourself. And that's exactly what Oscar does, and he kills himself. And Jesse's wanting answers because, you know, they have the same mark. So they go back down to Anna's apartment. And yeah, I mean, the scene's a little different, but it's nothing to really run home about. And then he goes into the bathroom and he peels some stuff out of his eye. And I would give a Lemmy for it because it is, like, you know, gruesome and ooh, it gives you that uneasy feeling. But we saw it in the trailer, so most of us were already pretty prepared for it. It was like one of their money shots. But I am going to give a Limey to the Simon-Jesse demon merger. It just looked very, very cheesy to me. They visit Arturo to see if there's any answers at all. And they find a familiar face to us in Allie Ray. And then they go to the store, and Jesse starts a fight with one of Marisol's friends. And wow, this scene was bad. I know what they were going for, but man, they could have done a lot better. It was very choppy, and like the line delivery, it was just really, really awkward. Jesse now feels like he is no longer under control, and then when he goes to talk to Simon again and ask him to stop, Simon says no, and no a lot, and I guess he like yells no because the red thing stays on, and then Jesse takes the batteries out, and I would have given Lemmy for it. It was almost a really, really good scene, but then Marisol messes it all up. Because she has the audacity to ask, do you think it's gone? Like, no, it's not gone. He just took the batteries out. Like, really? There that night, Jesse hears Chavo barking from Anna's apartment. But it actually turned out to be a trap, so Simon can finally attack Jesse and possess him. And now everything has changed about Jesse. It is to the point when now Hector and Marisol call Allie Ray, and she gives us a big exposition dump about the Coven. And then Jesse continues to show how evil he is by, you know, hanging Chavo out from the ceiling and kind of torturing the dog. And now there is going to be a ritual with the grandma, because, you know, God is on her side. And then Jesse breaks her hand, and then he disappears for a little bit, and then like this crazy thing happens where he's like flying in the air. And now look, guys, I am all for trying new things. I'm even open to this time travel idea to see how it does in, you know, execution, if you will. But man, was that bad. Not the time travel. We'll get to that in a little bit. But man, him in the air, that was just wow. Jesse then kills his grandma the next day. And another thing I'm not a huge fan of, I am not a fan of Jesse having teleporting powers pretty much. One of the things I really loved about Paranormal Activity was the realism of it. The first four, even Paranormal Activity 4 to an extent, there was realism to it. Even though, it was about ghosts and demons and all of that, there was still believability to it. And it's just gone now. There's no believability whatsoever. I don't care how strong this demon is and that he has time-traveling powers. He's not going to be able to teleport, especially in the apartment itself. Hector and Marisol try to think of a plan until his car breaks down. Jesse then teleports again to choke out Hector until Marisol hits him with a baseball bat. And then they run over to Arturo's house. And they get him to come with them to go get Jesse because Jesse was then kidnapped after witches crashed into Hector's car right before they showed up to Arturo's. And Arturo and his friend, they do what we all want to do in a horror movie, especially when we're going to fight a coven of witches. They bring guns. They're looking for a way into this house, and then they find a barn. And then as they're looking through the barn, a lady appears, and then when she appears, so do the witches, man. And this is when Arturo just starts blasting some witches, and it's so cool. And then Hector and Marisol sneak in and lock the door. And when Hector goes and look into another room, this is where Marisol disappears. And then a great, and I mean a great, bait and switch scare happens. Because Hector is focusing on this chair. And then you see an outline happen through the chair. And you're thinking like, oh, something's going to happen to come out of this chair. And then Marisol just flies through the ceiling. And she just crashes and dies. It is so cool. And then, we get a nice nod to the third movie with Hector going to the closet and, hiding just like in the third one. And then when he gets out, this is when Jesse appears and, he's running all animalistic to him upstairs. And then he closes the door and he sees the time travel door. And Jesse's trying to get in and he goes through that freaking door. And, I really like, and this one I'm going to give a Lemmy to, is that, time travel would affect with technology. Like, our technology cannot handle teleporting through time. But the camera does make it through time travel. And, we come in and the house looks a little familiar after he time traveled. And wait, is that the B-time table? Who's that walking down the stairs? It's Katie. She starts screaming for Mika. Oh my god, it's Mika. Are we doing the ending from the first one and we are now seeing what happened? Holy crap. And then Hector runs away and then Jesse finally attacks Hector and kills him. And that's how the movie ends. Wow. What an ending. Paranormal Activity, the marked ones, did a lot of different things, and with that changed the whole entire identity to the Paranormal Activity franchise. Our first of 3 standout performances goes to the nice nods to the other movies. The house from 3, Allie from 2, and the ending of 1. Our second standout performance goes to the absolutely awkward scenes. The Simon scene, the store scene. Just a lot of scenes just didn't really feel that natural to me, And our final standout goes to, look, I know I said I wasn't going to give any more Limeys to the unbelievable recordings, but the ending to this, as much as I love the ending, I actually think this is probably the best ending out of all 6 movies, is that Arturo would not be allowing them to record. We established that way early on. Arturo did not like him being recorded. And they, they would just walk up and hear it be recorded, and they acknowledged the camera. Like, I know they were like, hey, just go along with it. But that character, they established that he did not like being recorded. And he's about to go kill some people. He's about to kill some witches. You really think that he's going to be okayed with being recorded, killing witches? Come on now. So this is how the lemon scale works. If I did not like the movie, it is a sour lemon. If I am not the hugest fan of it, but hey, I can see why people enjoy it, it is expired store-bought lemonade. If I liked it, but there's a lot of problems, I can see why people hate it, it is a store-bought lemonade. If I liked it, hey, it's a movie, it's lemonade. If I really liked the movie with some minor problems to it, it is a freshly squeezed lemonade. And if I absolutely loved it, 10 out of 10, you have to see this right now. Drop everything you're doing or you'll die. It is a strawberry lemonade because that is the best kind of lemonade. And with a score of 20 to 15, favoring Limey for the first time, his first win, everyone. That makes Paranormal Activity the marked ones, an expired store-bought lemonade. Yeah, I'm not the hugest fan of this one. I can admire some of the things they do, and sometimes I am in the mood to watch this movie, but definitely not during a binge of it. I actually think I stop after 4 when I do a binge. So, guys, we are almost done. We are almost done with the Paranormal Activity franchise. Up next, the Ghost Dimension.